Congressman, it's good to be here with you. Let's talk about HR 7524, which is on the president's desk, the GSA Technology Accountability Act. What exactly would the law change?
Today, the Congress has little visibility into not only the money that's being spent, but how the federal government is spending their money on technology. We authorize billions of dollars on a regular basis and only find out by and large when there's a huge problem, when something didn't work, when a 5-year project goes south. This provides us more information and what I would say visibility into the money that's being spent.
Specifically, though, what more information are they providing that you're looking for?
Well, we're looking for what they're spending their money on, what kinds of services and products they're purchasing, what kind of regular interaction that the government takes. We found years ago that they were operating off such old computers that they needed to upgrade 3 generations. And it was done at the GSA that needed CAD type equipment to operate just like so many of their vendors did, and they were without it. And then they claimed, well, we just didn't have the money. We went back and found out they had the money. They chose not to do it. So this gives us a working relationship with them to find out not only what they're doing, how they're doing, but what they're spending their money on, so that we can understand then as we look across government why it's behind. Why is this important to me today? Because as the co-chairman of the DOGE caucus, I'm interested in government efficiency. And if you're operating off slow, old, or antiquated equipment that does not meet the needs of current, not only dialogue that goes forth, but also the ability to move faster, then you're getting behind. And typically what government does, they spend their money on people, not on technology.
Does this law more so have to do with the technology aspect of the GSA, or you really want to hear more about how they're spending their money? Which one's more which one you want to focus on more in this legislation?
As we receive regular feedback from customers, citizens around the country about what works and doesn't work, it is routine that we hear, well, we're behind in technology. And then we say, please tell me more. And of course, you realize what it is we give them money where we expect their ongoing business decisions to include spending regular amounts of money on technology to stay up, the same thing that I do here in my office, the same thing that normal people do, but they choose not to do that. And then they wait and get behind and then ask for a lot of money for a big project. This way we stay up with them, we know what they're spending their money on, and we know what their deliverables should be.
How do you feel this specific law will impact voters in the 17th district?
Well, certainly as a huge number of people work for the government from home, they have needed to make sure that they reinvested not just in databases, but in communications equipment. I'm not sure they did that. I think that they have cut corners. I think that they have done things without regard for what they would have normally done at home. So part of the DOGE caucus ask is to President Trump, you need to please ask that all federal employees come back to work, that they stop working remotely, because we're trying to figure out how many employees we need, and we need to figure out the level of service that's been offered. So it works hand in hand with this law that would now tell us how much money they're spending on technology. Are they doing the things that would be necessary to effectively move forward customer service? And if there are complaints from citizens about the service that they get, we want to know whether we're in error or whether the agency's in error by not investing in better service and technology.
You mentioned federal employees, and of course, there are quite a few across the 17th district. But individuals who don't work in the government, how do you feel? Do you feel this will impact them in any way?
It already has. It began impacting people who live in the 17th district a long time ago. We went through a problem with passports for many, many, many months, and that service was not available properly to people. They had to make long distance drives outside the state of Texas to get the services that they needed. The IRS is months behind and in fact does not operate in an efficient way. And in that process, there are lots of other government agencies that simply do not offer the day-to-day service that they should. We're trying to figure out, is that because they don't have enough employees? Is it because the employees that they have are not efficient because they're working from home and not working on the databases? Or is it a certain circumstance where they need more employees? Lastly, it is important for us to understand that as the government operates, it needs money, and it needs regular money and should be spending its money appropriately. But we find that managers of the business, when they switch hats, many times do not lead to the very best. And that's what we found out in this administration. They had employees who stayed at home. They spent a lot of money uh, running for the employees, but not on the services. So over $400 billion during COVID money was given out improperly. And that's because on the high side, their technology did not match what it should have been if they were in the office to check other databases, to follow processes and procedures. So this administration spent its money on giving employees more work money and less on balancing out the real needs of what their performance and jobs were.
How confident are you that President Biden will sign this before the 118th Congress ends?
I think you will. It was passed by the Senate. The Senate is run a Democrat majority. It was a piece of legislation. We feel like it was sound, and he's at the end of his administration. I think he sees this would be a benefit to the operation for Congress to be able to stay up with technology in addition to the administration.
Even with the short time frame, though, are you still confident he'll sign it?
I am.
Now, of course, you've also been reelected to the 119th Congress. Are there any laws you want to see put forth also regarding, transparency in government administrations agencies that you want to share with us?
In fact, there are, and there are a series of them, but the biggest one is that what we're doing with the Doge caucus, this government efficiency caucus, the hearing that I held as the subcommittee chairman for government reform and oversight subcommittee on federal government operations and federal workforce, we received a good bit of feedback, including a hearing from the OMB and Office of Management Personnel. And OMB said that they could certify that during the last 3 years, they could subscribe $1,700,000,000,000 to waste, fraud, and abuse. That means that as we held the hearing, I asked them, what have you done? And they listed a lot of things that they had done. And then at the end of the hearing, I asked them, so will the number next year in 26 be less or more than it was with this outrageous amount of between 500 and $700 billion? And they said, oh, it'll be far more. I said, then what are we doing? And they said, well, government by itself is wholly inefficient, and we have to make it better. So we're going to make it better.
Before I let you go, I would like to ask you about the continuing resolution. If that is not passed by the end of the week, the government will shut down. What are your thoughts on the continuing resolution? Do you feel it should be passed? And if not, what changes would you like to see put in place to get your support on it?
As the country knows, there's a proposal by the Democrats and the Republicans, specifically the Speaker of the House, who pushed a CR that was over 1,300 pages. It contained much extraneous and brand new spending. and it was roundly criticized and pulled. They have now started over. It will be what is called a clean CR that will include, in my opinion, money that would be there for agricultural needs, agricultural problems are across our country. The agricultural fund needs to be funded. I'd indicated I will not vote for a CR unless it's in there. Been told it's in there. And I anticipate that we will have a CR that also will include debt limit funding of about a year. These are essential items to keep the government working. I'm confident, even though it's about 2 o'clock right now, Eastern time in Washington, D.C., that hopefully by tonight we can pass this, and then hopefully members can get home probably tomorrow.
You feel it could be passed tonight?
I feel like when they put it on the floor that there are some members who have already vacated town who would have a chance to come back tomorrow, but I believe that it will, my vote would be as soon as it comes up, I intend to be a yes vote off the promise that it is what's called a clean CR with a debt limit amount or time frame, and that it would also contain economic damage support for farmers and ranchers.
Congressman, is there anything else you'd like for our audience to know on the GSA Technology Accountability Act, or anything for that matter?
Well, I think it's important that people have confidence that what we're working through in Washington, we're not down on the floor fighting with each other. We're actually showing up with our ideas. We live in the greatest country in the world, and it to have a successful conclusion to this, to avoid shutting down the government, it means that both sides need to work together. And in working together, it does not mean that there's a perfect bill, but it means that we will accomplish what we need to do. The American people can have confidence that America is the greatest country in the world and that our political system is capable of effectively moving forward on their behalf.
Last thing before I forget, for our audience who's unfamiliar with the GSA's Technology Transformation Services, what exactly do they do?
Yeah, the GSA is the Government Services Administration, and they essentially manage not just the backbone of the country in technology, but they offer services in every single agency. They offer services to make sure that the telecommunications are secure, that the telecommunications meet the need, and they provide the technology, the influence, and the ability that we have to make sure that the federal government operates in a secure, sound, and effective way as we move forward. Because, as you know, America has many adversaries and people who not only want to take uh, our data and information, but also people who would misuse that ability. And so the GSA, as a harbinger of not only our buildings and our data and information, stands the place, and they are the government agency that sets standards and follows them. And so this is why we work with the GSA to make sure that the things which they are spending their money on, we're aware in Congress so that we can make sure that the American people have what they need to operate their business and do business with the government.
And specifically the Technology Transformation Services, though, what exactly is that specifically?
Well, the services department is the one that looks ahead, maps out what sort of telecommunications information, data, the technology that would be needed, and make sure that it applies it properly. So these are actually the people that would, like when I worked at AT&T, I may have been in the sales or marketing department, but there were people who made sure that the products actually worked. And we called that the network department. And the network department, or in this case, GSA Technology, make sure that what they're buying works, what they're utilizing meets the customer needs, and that we stay forthright towards moving to the best top flight way of providing goods and services for the customer, which are citizens, and the agencies.
Congressman Pete Sessions, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
You betcha.